The Whispering Forest, Chapter 1, The Road Beyond the Mapno. One never stumbled into the Whispering Forest by accident. It wasn't the kind of place you could find on a weekend hike, nor the sort you might discover on a curious detour off the motorway. The path to it existed, yes, but only when it was ready, and only for those who needed it. Elena, a young woman with eyes the color of dusk, found herself walking a winding, narrow road just past twilight. She wasn't sure how she'd ended. Up here, one moment she had been sitting on a park bench, watching leaves spiral in the autumn breeze, feeling the weight of 1,000 thoughts on her chest. The next, she was walking slowly, softly, down a lane she didn't remember choosing. The road was flanked by tall grasses that swayed without wind, as if listening to music only they could hear. Every few steps, a small lamp glowed too. Life along the path, casting gentle orbs of golden light, dim and calming, just enough to show the way. Elena didn't question it. Not the lights, not the path, not the stillness of the air. Her feet moved forward as if they knew something her mind didn't. There was no hurry in her step, no destination in her mind, only the quiet pull of something tender and deep, like a lullaby from childhood half remembered. She passed an old wooden sign, crooked and overgrown with ivy. The paint had long faded, but the name was still etched into the wood, Whispering Forest. The letters curved like vines, almost part of the tree bark itself. She stopped for a moment and ran her fingers along the letters. Whispering Forest. She whispered aloud, Dot, and as if in reply, a breeze stirred. Not cold, not warm, but perfectly still and soft, like a breath beside her ear. It carried no scent, only feeling. Calm, safe, peaceful. Dot, she stepped forward. The trees ahead arched over the road like guardians, and as she passed beneath them, the world changed. The sounds of traffic, of city chatter, of deadlines and alarms, all faded, replaced by the hush of leaves, the chirp of distant crickets, and the quiet pulse of her own heartbeat slowing. She was in Chapter 2. The canopy of lanterns, the path beneath Elena's feet, softened as she ventured deeper. Gravel gave way to moss, cool and springy beneath her worn shoes. Above her, the trees knit their branches together so closely that they formed a cathedral of leaves. Tiny specks of light floated through the air, not fireflies exactly, but something slower, calmer, as if the forest itself had exhaled light. She walked for what felt like an hour, though time behaved differently here. The sky above dimmed, not in darkness, but in a gentle hush of color, lavender giving way to indigo, indigo to midnight blue. The trees began to glow faintly, their trunks threaded with bioluminescent veins of soft blue and green, guiding her steps like ancient runes. They didn't shine, they pulsed, like heartbeats, like dreams. Ahead, Elena saw movement, a flicker of something winged and silent. Then another, a chorus of glowing moths, spiraled upward into the canopy. As they flew, the trees above awakened. Lanterns, seemingly grown from the branches themselves, opened one by one, each like a flower made of light. Their glow was not harsh like electric bulbs, but warm and fluid, casting slow-moving shadows that danced like water. Elena smiled for the first time in what felt like days. Where am I? She asked softly, not expecting an answer. To her, Surprise one came not from a voice, but from the lanterns themselves, swaying gently above. "You are where you need to be," they seemed to say. "You are not lost. You are arriving." A figure appeared ahead, not threatening, not hurried. A deer, but not like any she had ever seen. Its fur was silver gray, and its antlers sparkled as if dusted with stars. It looked at her without fear, its eyes deep pools of patience. The deer nodded once, then turned and began to walk. Elena, though unsure, followed. She felt no need to question. The stillness of the forest had settled into her like sleep before sleep, soft. Whole wordless dot around her, the whispering trees continued their lullaby, speaking without voices, offering peace without price. They were telling her something ancient, something important, but not with urgency. Here, everything had time. Chapter 3. The cabin beneath the stars, the star-antlered deer led. Elena through a winding path where the trees began to space themselves apart, opening into a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. At the center of this quiet grove stood a small wooden cabin, humble, yet glowing softly, like it belonged to the forest rather than being built inside it. The roof was curved with moss and wildflowers, windows trimmed with vines that curled playfully. Along the wooden frame, smoke rose from a tiny stone chimney, not thick or heavy, but wispy and slow, as if even the fire inside breathed gently. Elena stopped just before the clearing, uncertain whether to approach. The deer turned to face her once more, its gaze kind and steady. Then, without a sound, it bowed its head and disappeared into the trees, not in a burst of magic, but as though it had simply become one with the shadows. She stood for a moment, letting the stillness wrap around her. A faint wind moved through the leaves. Somewhere overhead an owl hooted low, melodic, like the first note of a song. From within the cabin came the soft clinking of porcelain. Then a slow creak. The door opened. Standing there was an owl, upright, wearing round spectacles and a loosely draped linen robe. His feathers were a dappled mix of ash gray and warm cream, his eyes large and luminous. He looked at Elena as if he had been expecting her for quite some time. "Ah," he said, his voice gravelly but kind. "You've arrived. Come in, dear. The kettle is just now singing." Elena hesitated, then stepped forward. The cabin's interior was exactly what she didn't know she needed. Walls lined with shelves of ancient books, dried herbs hanging above the hearth, and an old wooden table set for two with steaming cups of tea. A small fire crackled gently in the fireplace, casting golden light across a cozy rug and two armchairs that looked perfectly worn. "You live here?" she asked softly, standing in awe. "I do," the owl replied. "My name is Elric. The forest keeps me company, and now it seems so will you for a while." "Why me?" Elric smiled, walking slowly to the table. "The forest whispers when someone is weary," he said, "and tonight it whispered your name." He gestured to the seat beside him. Elena, still unsure how she'd gotten here, still unsure where. Here truly was, sat down without question. Outside. The trees hummed. Inside. The tea tasted of lavender and something sweeter, something she couldn't name, but remembered somehow, deep in her bones. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't confused. She was simply here. Chapter 4. the story of stillness. Warmth of the tea seeped into Elena's hands as she cradled the ceramic cup, its delicate steam curling into the quiet air. The room had no clocks, no ticking, no pressure. Even the fire crackled politely, its rhythm soothing rather than wild. Elric sank into his chair opposite her with a slow, careful grace. He folded his wings neatly and took a sip of his own tea. For a time they sat in silence, not awkward, not empty, just present. "You're not the first to find your way here," Elric said, eyes reflecting the flicker of firelight. "And you won't be the last. The forest calls only those who are ready to listen." Elena looked into her cup, unsure how to reply. The tea's flavor lingered with notes of honey, chamomile, and something ancient. "What do you mean by ready to listen?" she asked. Ilric smiled, a warm lift of feathers around his eyes. "Most of the world is full of noise, child. It teaches you to hurry, to achieve, to collect. But the forest, it whispers. And whispers can only be heard in stillness. Outside, the wind passed through the trees in a gentle hush. There are places in this forest where even time sleeps," Elric continued, "where thoughts slow down and dreams walk beside you. But to find them, you must stop chasing." Elena exhaled, her breath soft and slow. She didn't know if it was the tea, the fire, or the owl's voice, but her chest felt lighter. "Is this place real?" she asked. "As real as rest," Elric replied. He leaned back, his eyes beginning to close. "Tonight you'll sleep in the loft. Tomorrow the forest may show you more, but for now, let it wrap around you." Elena nodded slowly. She was tired, not the kind that sleep alone could fix, but something deeper, something the forest seemed to understand. She rose, and Elric guided her to a wooden ladder that led to the sleeping loft. As she climbed, each step creaked softly, like a lullaby, in wood above. A bed of thick quilts waited beneath a window that framed the stars. She lay down, and as her eyes drifted closed, the forest whispered, "You are safe. You are seen. You can rest now." And she did.